By the time the Chinese Football Association died, Lin Benyuan was stitching another football back together. They all blurred together after the first dozen that summer. Every ball came with the same scars, split seams, flattened panels, leather rubbed smooth by concrete and gravel. Kids in Z City wore them out faster than their parents could buy new ones. So Lin drove his heavy steel needle through the thick casing under a 40-watt bulb in the old locker room. The air smelled of cheap glue and sweat that had soaked into the concrete years ago. Outside, a string of firecrackers went off. A roar rolled in from the night markets 3 blocks away. It sounded like a stadium. Lin didn't look up. Hope had fooled him before then. His Redmi phone skidded across the warped wooden desk. He dropped the awl. His thumb left a smear of black grease on the glass as he swiped. Chen Zihan's voice cracked through the small speaker. "Coach, turn on the news. It's gone." They tore the plaque down. Lin opened the main feed. The parents' chat group was a blur of screenshots. Bold print jumped out. DSSO U10 of the China Institute BALS Suchi DALS Suchi DALS Suchi DALS C Food BALS D C D. Lin stopped reading. That was enough. They all hit the concrete floor with the dull ping. He looked up at the yellowed photo on the wall. 2027, Zihan was smiling, holding a cheap trophy next to Sang Jianguo. Tea steamed between them. Sang didn't touch his cup. Instead, he drummed 2 fingers against the polished mahogany. 200,000, San said. He smiled as if the money already belonged to him. The boy gets into the national team. Another tap of the finger. Otherwise, he shrugged. He never existed. Lin hadn't answered. He had thrown the boiling tea straight into San's face. 7 days later, a red stamp ended everything. The academy's registration was revoked to rent, for the public fields doubled. Lin stood up, his knees popping in the quiet room. He pushed open the creaking iron door and walked out onto the artificial turf. Smoke from the fireworks drifted across the rooftops. Car horns blared from the main road. "The sun is up," someone yelled from an alley. Lin stood on the warm plastic grass. For 30 years, the CFA was the wall. Now it was gone. His phone buzzed again. A text from the Qing City tournament coordinator. No FA stamp, no match. Security permit denied. Lin slipped the phone back into his pocket. Tomorrow had just changed. He looked across the dark, empty field for the first time in 30 years. Nobody was in charge. He pulled a thick nylon thread tight until it bit into his skin, unsure if the feeling in his chest was freedom or the beginning of something worse. 4 dark bolt holes scarred the concrete, where the white wooden sign used to hang. 5 bullet marks inside the Municipal Sports Bureau. The lobby smelled of scorched plastic. 2 commercial shredders sat dead in the corner, jammed to the throat with paper. Lin took the stairs to the 3rd floor. Sang Jianguo folded the same faded white shirt twice before putting it away. One sleeve still hung limply out of the woven snakeskin bag at his feet. The bag already bulged with tea tins, framed certificates, and a desk calendar. Nobody would ever flip again. Only then did he look up. His eyes were veined with red, his hair wild. "You here to enjoy the show?" "The files," Lin said. Zihan's registration card. San tossed a pack of cigarettes onto the desk, dropped his plastic lighter twice, and finally got a flame. He blew a gray cloud toward the water-stained ceiling, his gaze lingering on the faded rectangular patch where a framed provincial award used to hang. In the iron cabinet, they're just trash now. He let out a dry, rattling laugh. "They're gone, Lin. All of them. The clubs." "What clubs?" "They're gone." "Deng." "Europe," San said. "Left. Before breakfast. Tax auditors hit the tarmac. Nobody's home. The league is frozen. No referees, no youth funding, nothing." He looked around the stripped office, his voice suddenly dropping, stripped of its bureaucratic weight. "I gave this place 20 years, Lin. They shredded me faster than the paperwork. Lin walked over to the cabinet and pulled the manila folders free. He didn't look at the framed photos Sun was leaving behind. Maybe, Lin said, pausing at the threshold. He shrugged. But I'm still walking out. A glass cup shattered against the doorframe behind him, spraying shards across his boots. He didn't blink by afternoon. The kitchen table in Lin's shack was covered in those folders. But the phone wouldn't stop ringing. I can't sign off, Lin, the local police captain said over the line. The man sounded like he was chewing on dust. No FA, no legal entity, taking liability. If a kid breaks a leg, or a fight starts in the stands, who goes to jail? No stamp, no match, my hands are tied. Lin looked out the window. On the gravel patch outside, Zihan was spinning a flattened football between his palms, a slow nervous habit he'd had since he was 8, before kicking it against the brick wall. Bang, bang, bang. The stamp on the paperwork was gone, and without it, the field was just dirt. You promised league matches. The receipt landed on the grease-stained table, followed by a crumpled registration form. So what exactly did we pay for? Lin looked up from his warm beer. The skewer joint was loud, thick with cumin smoke, and the roar of the evening exhaust fans. But the 3 parents standing over his table were louder. Zihan's mother stood in the middle, her lips pressed into a thin, white line. The association is gone, Mrs. Chen, Lin said softly. That's not my problem, Lin, she said, her voice dropping into a harsh whisper. My boy hasn't touched a pitch in 8 weeks. The private academy down the road is already taking transfers. If you don't have a league, give us the money back. 6 other local coaches sat around the low table, staring into their glasses. Nobody spoke until the parents walked out, leaving the greasy paper on the concrete floor. Lin didn't slam his glass. He sat perfectly still for a full minute, his weathered hand locked around the cheap plastic cup until the cracked ridge bit into his palm. He squeezed until the plastic split down the side, spilling lukewarm beer over his knuckles and onto the dirt floor. He didn't even look down to wipe it. We register a business, Lin said, his voice flat, dangerously quiet. Is it legal? A younger coach asked. A FIFA is talking about a global ban on the whole country. Lin stared at the puddle of beer sinking into the dirt. We haven't made a World Cup in 30 years. What do these kids care about Zurich? They need a match on Saturday morning. The suits can't stop us from playing on a dirt hill. Nobody asked for permits. Nobody cut a ribbon. Nobody played an anthem. Someone put a plastic whistle to his lips. That was enough. The first whistle sounded on a dirt lot, behind an abandoned factory. White lime lines poured directly onto the gravel. Zihan walked out as captain. Before he stepped onto the pitch, he bent down, spat on his hands, and spun the ball once between his palms. When he looked up, the banks of the ditch were lined with people. Neighbors, parents, guys from the tool and die shops, holding oil drums and iron pipes to beat out a rhythm. The match was fast, cruel on the knees. In the 32nd minute, Zihan took a long pass on the wing. He didn't control it. He chipped it over a defender's head, took 2 strides through the dust, and slotted it past the keeper. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then the crowd broke. Lin couldn't hear the whistle anymore over the shouting. The crowd was on the field before the goalkeeper even stood up. Zihan didn't scream. He didn't run to the corner flag to celebrate. He stood in the settling dust by the net, his ribs rising and falling as he breathed, turning his head until his eyes found Lin through the surging crowd. He gave his coach a single tight nod. Lin watched from a broken plastic chair on the sideline. He reached into his pocket and pressed the point of the heavy steel needle into his thumb. It hurt, he smiled. The cage was gone. The ball kept rolling. The heavy steel needle went through the green mesh of the jersey. Yuan pulled the nylon thread tight. The old locker room smelled of damp concrete. On the long wooden bench lay 9 other jerseys. their printed numbers peeling at the edges. Outside, a black Audi crossover drove onto the dirt lot. Its tires crunched over the gravel. Lin didn't look through the window. He kept his eyes on the needle, guiding it through a tear in the shoulder of Zihan's shirt. The car door thudded shut. A man in tan leather loafers and gray slacks pushed open the creaking iron door. He smelled of mint and air-conditioned leather. "Coach Lin," Ma Lu said. He didn't offer his hand. He looked at the water stains on the ceiling, then down at an old scuffed Star Brand football sitting by the door. Ma stepped forward, hooked his toe under the ball, and flipped it up. He dropped his shoulder, caught it on his thigh, and popped it twice with the instep of his shoe before letting it bounce away. He didn't even lose his balance. "Still the old Star Brand," Ma said, smiling slightly. "I learned on these too." Lin tied off the knot. "The air is better down here." Ma pulled a silver case from his pocket, slipped out a slim cigarette, and lit it with a gold lighter. "The capital is a mess. Half the bureau is under investigation. The other half is practicing their calligraphy because they have nothing else to do. But Shanghai doesn't care about the bureau." Lin set the needle down on the workbench. "They're buying. They're investing," Ma corrected. "The East Coast Academy just signed a partnership with Mallorca. Real scouting. Real grass. Not this." He nodded toward the window. "The boy is 15, Lin." "Lin." "2 more years on these stones, and his ankles are finished." Lin picked up another jersey. "Number 7. He stays," Lin said. "His mother already signed the intent form," Ma said softly. The needle stopped 0.5 millimeter from Lin's thumb. The kitchen in the Chen apartment was small. It smelled of fried cabbage. Mrs. Chen set a bowl of rice in front of Lin, then sat down. Zihan sat at the corner of the table, his eyes fixed on his chopsticks. His thumbs were moving against each other in a slow, tight circle. Between them lay a sleek blue folder. In the center, silver embossed logo of a logistics conglomerate caught the light of the bare bulb. Leng stared at the silver logo. The old red stamp from the capital was gone, but this was the new one. "They have a dormitory," Mrs. Chen said. She didn't look at Lin. 4 meals a day, a nutritionist from Korea. They pay for his high school tuition. Real tuition. Not the vocational school down the road. "They own him for 9 years, Lin said. "That's not my problem, Lin," she snapped, turning her face away toward the small sink. "My boy hasn't touched a proper pitch in 8 weeks. The private academy down the road is already taking transfers. If you don't have a league, what does he have here?" Lin didn't answer. He looked at Zihan. "Do you want to go?" The kitchen went quiet. The only sound was the low hum of the old refrigerator in the corner. Zihan didn't look up. His thumbs were red from the rubbing. "I don't want to leave," Zihan whispered. He stopped his thumbs, his fists clenching against his knees. "But I want to play." Lin sat perfectly still for a full minute. His hand closed around his cheap plastic beer cup until the rim bit into his skin. He didn't break it, he just held it until his knuckles turned white, then set it down. Ma Lu was waiting at the end of the alley, leaning against the warm hood of his Audi. The headlights cut through the autumn mist. "No officials to bribe anymore, Lin," Ma said, as Lin walked past. "The market is clean now. We give the boy Spain." "What do you give him?" Lin stopped. He didn't look at Ma. He looked up at the yellow light in the kitchen window on the 3rd floor. "He still runs toward the ball," Lin said. Ma smiled, clicking his silver pen shut. "The game doesn't pay for groceries." Lin walked back to the locker room. The 40-watt bulb flickered once above his desk. He sat down, pulled Zihan's green jersey back into his lap, and picked up the steel needle. He aimed for the torn seam near the collar. This time, he missed the hole, The water in the plastic bucket froze solid by November. The B-Man didn't crack the ice with his flashlight anymore. He left it there, a gray disc trapped in red plastic. The locker room was too cold to clean on the field behind the factory. 30 boys had shrunk to 11. By the third week of the frost, Fela Zihan stood in the center of the frozen ruts. His hands stuffed into his armpits. His ears were raw and red from the wind coming off the northern bay. The lime lines had dissolved into gray slime, leaving the pitch looking like a plowed field that had frozen mid-turn. The ball is too heavy, Zihan said. His voice had a new, rough edge to it. He was 15 now, his throat cracking on the vowels. It feels like a rock. Your feet are too soft, Lin said. He sat on the broken plastic chair, his wool scarf pulled up to his nose. Keep moving. We don't have enough for a match, coach, a boy named Dapong said. Tui was looking at the gate. Lin didn't look at the gate. He knew who wasn't there. Xiao Liu, the assistant, hadn't come for 3 days. There was no phone call, no text message, just a pair of wet, mud-caked sneakers left under the bench and the iron whistle hanging from a nail by the door. Xiao Liu's key to the equipment shed was lying on the kitchen table in Lin's shack. Lin had found it that morning under an empty bottle of soy sauce. 6 is enough, Lin said. 3 on 3, short passes. The match lasted 12 minutes. Zihan tried to turn on a ridge of hardened mud. His left canvas shoe caught a frozen stone, and the entire sole peeled away from the canvas like a dead tongue. He didn't drop. He hobbled 3 steps, his gray cotton sock dragging through the dirt, and kicked the ball wide of the 2 bricks that marked the goal. He didn't chase it. He stood there, his chest heaving, looking at his bare foot sinking into the frosty grit. The academy in District 4 has an indoor hall, Zihan said. He didn't look at Lin. He spoke to the brick wall behind the goal. Dapeng's cousin went there. They have heaters. You can wear clean socks. Lin got up from the chair. His right knee clicked, a sharp, familiar pinch. Go home, Lin said to the others. The boys left without showering. They didn't have hot water anyway. Lin walked over to Zihan's shoe, picked it up, and looked at the white glue dried along the seam. It was cheap factory work. It couldn't hold up to November. He reached into his pocket out of habit, his thumb seeking the cold, hard ridge of the steel needle. He stopped himself. He pulled his hand out empty. Can it be fixed? Zihan asked. No, Lin said. He tossed the ruined canvas into the weed-choked ditch. Get your boots. The studs are gone, coach, Zihan whispered. I'm down to the leather. Lin turned his back and walked toward the locker room. The wind was getting stronger, blowing gray dust off the abandoned factory roof. They didn't play on the dirt lot that Saturday. Lin took them to the district sports park, a 4-mile walk along the railway line, carrying the 3 Starbrand balls in a mesh sack. The park had a fence inside. The grass was green, not real grass, but the bright, clean nylon that Malu's company laid down. A youth team from the Shangli private school was already there. They wore matching orange kits with long sleeves and black thermal layers underneath. Their coach, a man in a clean white tracksuit with a whistle on a blue lanyard, looked at Lin's 6 boys. 1 wore a school uniform jacket. 2 had mismatching socks. We have the pitch until noon, the orange coach said. He didn't look angry. He looked busy. He was checking an iPad. Friendship match, Lin said. 30 minutes. The orange coach looked at Zihan's bare ankles, then at the scuffed leather of the Starbrand balls. We have a league tournament next month in Jiangsu. My boys need tactical work, not a brawl. 30 minutes, Lin repeated. The match was silent. Stern's boys didn't know how to run on the nylon. Studs on their old boots caught too hard in the synthetic tufts, making them stumble. Zihan got the ball twice. Both times, 3 orange shirts converged on him. their boots making a clean, rhythmic slap 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 on the plastic surface. They didn't slide. They didn't need to. They just moved faster, their bodies heavier, thick with the weight of meat and milk. In the 22nd minute, an Orange midfielder took a shot from 30 yards out. It hit the crossbar with a loud ping and dropped straight over the line. Lin's goalkeeper didn't even dive. He was watching the ball's flight, his hands tucked inside his sleeves. That's enough, Lin called out from the touchline. The match had only lasted 24 minutes. The Orange coach blew his silver whistle. His boys lined up immediately, shaking hands with Lin's players in a quick, mechanical row. They smelled of expensive laundry detergent and orange segments. Zeihan stood by the corner flag. He wasn't crying. He was watching the orange video drink from a blue plastic bottle with a specialized nozzle. The boy didn't unscrew the cap. He just squeezed it, and a stream of yellow liquid went into his mouth. "What is that?" Zeihan asked when Lin walked over. "Vitamin water," Lin said. "Does it make you run faster?" "No," Lin said. Zeihan looked down at the green nylon beneath his feet. He bent over, touched the blade of the plastic grass with his finger, and pulled. It didn't come loose. It was rooted into something heavy and black beneath. "We would have won on the dirt," Zeihan said. Lin looked at the boy's thin collarbone, the way his shoulders slouched under the faded jersey. For the first time since June, Lin didn't have an answer. He felt the weight of the mesh sack against his hip, the 3 heavy, scuffed balls that smelled of old lard and leather glue. Maybe the boy was wrong. Maybe the dirt was just dirt. The bulldozer didn't wait for the springling. Ben Yuan woke up at 5 on Tuesday because the kitchen window was rattling. It wasn't the high-speed train. The vibration was lower, a greasy diesel thrum that shook the floorboards of his shack. He didn't put on his coat. He walked out in his shirt sleeves. The iron gate of the factory lot was already down, twisted into a gray cursive letter on the frozen mud. A yellow excavator with a rusted bucket was standing where the center circle used to be. 2 men in blue denim jackets were knocking down the south brick wall with sledgehammers. Crack. Crack. The white goalposts Lin had painted by hand 3 weeks ago were lying in the ditch. One of them was snapped in the middle, the clean white pine showing its yellow splinters. "Hey!" Lin shouted. His voice was swallowed by the diesel engine. A man in a hard hat walked over, waving a clipboard covered in clear plastic. "Bamboo, order." The lease was terminated on the 1st. "Clear the building by noon." Lin didn't argue. He went into the locker room. The room was already dark because they had cut the power line. He didn't touch the old refrigerator. He picked up his canvas bag, threw the 3 Star brand balls inside, and reached for the iron whistle on the nail. His fingers were shaking with the cold. When he walked out into the alley, the black Audi crossover was there. The hazards weren't blinking. The engine hummed, the exhaust throwing a long, silent plume of white smoke into the gray morning. Malu didn't get out of the car. He didn't lower the window. He just reached across the passenger seat and pushed the rear door open from the inside. The interior of the car was bright, the dashboard glowing with digital blue and red lights. A small wave of warm air, smelling of mint and expensive wool, drifted out into the mud. Zeihan's mother was already sitting in the front seat. Her head was turned away, looking at the digital clock on the console. Zeihan stood by the open rear door. He wore his old-school jacket, the one with the torn sleeve. He looked at the seat, the clean gray perforated leather, then back at Lin's canvas bag. Malu looked at his watch. He didn't press the horn. He just let the car crawl forward 6 inches, the tires sinking into the soft mud where the fence used to stand. Lin, Zeihan's mother said through the glass. Her voice was muffled, small. "The train leaves at 8. Zeihan looked at Lin. "Coach," he said. Lin looked at the broken white post in the ditch. The yellow wood was getting wet in the mist, turning a dark, bruised brown. Go inside, Lin said. The car is warm. Zihan didn't look back. He stepped into the Audi, his muddy boots leaving 2 black crescents on the gray carpet before the door closed with that heavy, expensive thud. The car didn't move yet. Malu finally rolled his window down 3 inches. He didn't look at Lin. Instead, he reached into his breast pocket, pulled out a second blue folder and dropped it out of the window. The folder landed with a soft slap in the cold mud at Lin's feet. The logistics conglomerate is opening 3 scout positions for the northern region next month, Malu said, his voice flat, completely devoid of triumph. True talent identification. No bureau politics. The salary package includes full corporate insurance. Shanghai doctors can rebuild that right patella of yours in 3 weeks, Lin. Lin stood perfectly still in his shirt sleeves. The wind from the bay blew gray dust across his face. The boy is 15 ma, Lu said softly, his fingers tapping the leather steering wheel. He's going to a city where he doesn't know a soul. He needs a familiar face in the stands, coach. Think about the knee. Think about the groceries. The window rolled up, sealing the mint-scented warmth inside. The Audi turned slowly, its clean headlights cutting through the diesel smoke of the excavator, and moved out toward the main road until the red taillights vanished into the fog. Lan stood alone in the mud. He bent down, picked up the blue folder, and wiped the gray slime from the silver embossed logo with his palm. He walked back into the darkening locker room. Outside, the sledgehammers hit the outer wall again. Crack, a thin line of dust fell from the ceiling like flour settling over the wooden benches. Ziyan sat at his desk. He opened the folder. The white paper inside was pristine, untouched by the mud. At the bottom of the page, a crisp silver line waited for a signature. He reached into his pocket. His thumb found the cold, rigid steel of the needle. He didn't look for the nylon thread. He didn't try to thread the eye. Lin laid the steel needle flat across the signature line. Outside, the excavator's bucket rose high into the gray sky, swung around, and came down hard through the corrugated iron roof of the equipment shed. The metal screamed. Lin sat in the dark. He didn't move.